How does an artist go from playing on the streets, busking for spare change, to being featured alongside Bryan and Post Malone? Sierra Ferrell's rise is unlike anything we've ever seen in country and folk music.
Yikes. Thank you so much.
Singing on sidewalks and dive bars and anywhere that would have her. And oh yeah, even train hopping. She spent years honing in her craft in the most unconventional way. But behind the music, there was a struggle. In her early years, she was battling something much darker. The vices that came with that lifestyle that nearly took her own.
And I've died 5 times, and I've seen some things, and I'm not scared of dying from that.
So how did she not only survive, but rise to the occasion, pulling herself out of that cycle and turning her talent into something unstoppable? How did an artist who started with nothing carve out a space for herself in a world that often overlooks stories like hers? Well, to understand that, we have to start from the very beginning. This is the insane story of Sierra Ferrell.
Thank you.
Sierra's story starts in Charleston, West Virginia. Sierra grew up in low-income housing, moving constantly. 6 different schools, a single mom doing everything she could to take care of Sierra and her brother. Watching her mother struggle, though, was tough, and Sierra would be the first to admit that she wasn't always the easiest kid to raise.
I had to watch her struggle, and it was hard. I'll admit, I take accountability. I wasn't probably the easiest child to raise either.
But even back then, there was a feeling that she was meant for something beyond the world that she knew. She was always drawn to music as a kid. She sang in choir and played in the school band. She spent her childhood listening to whatever was on the radio, like the sounds of the late 90s and early 2000s. But nothing in Charleston felt like it was leading her toward where she was supposed to be. Eventually, she dropped out of high school, and while she did go back to get her GED, the sense of restlessness never left. Charleston had started to feel like the weight was pulling her down. She had already had her first run-in with drugs, and she knew that if she stayed, that life could ultimately consume her. That's when she met a woman that would change the course of her life. A traveler, a free spirit, someone who saw Sierra and knew that there was something more for her. But that woman saw something in Sierra that she couldn't see in herself. So one day she said, "Let's get out of here." And Sierra listened.
I ran into this woman. Her name's Emily. She was visiting the neighbors of the trailer I was living in. And she saw me and she was like, "I'm getting you out of here." And she left for like a month and then she came back. And then she was like a transient. But anyways, she came back, she threw me in the van. She's like, "We're getting out of here." And then we got out of there and then we started hitchhiking together.
But out here on the road, she had a chance to start over. No safety net, no plan, and just the open road ahead of her. She grabbed her guitar and the two of them hit the road. Sierra wasn't just looking for adventure, she was looking for something bigger, a new way of life, a place where she could find people like her, maybe even some of her future bandmates. She didn't have much, but she had music and she had adventure, and that was enough. The first hitchhiking ride she caught ended up shaping her in ways she'd never expect. The driver took one look at her and handed her something unexpected, a knife.
The very first person that picked us up, he pulled out this knife that was in a sheath and he handed it to me. And he's like, "Take this with you, you're gonna need it."
Did you need the knife?
I did. Because for one, if you have bad intentions, I'm not scared to use it, but also you need it for snacks.
She wasn't just leaving home, she was stepping into an entirely different world. Sierra's journey took her far beyond the boundaries of Charleston, West Virginia. She didn't know exactly where she was headed at first, just that she needed to leave. Hitchhiking, train hopping, these were the first steps into the world that she felt was calling for her. It was a wild, unpredictable lifestyle, and she was drawn to it. There was a certain thrill to it, mixed with a deep sense of fear and freedom. I love the way she describes her experience train hopping, and I couldn't even imagine what the experience was like for her.
Okay, so riding trains is really beautiful, amazing, terrifying, horrible, traumatizing experience I've ever experienced in my life. And not only just because of the way you're doing it, but the people you meet.
But it wasn't just the trains that shaped her. It was the lifestyle, the freedom, the chaos, the constant motion. And then the winds took her to Seattle. There she found a different kind of freedom. Busking on the streets, Sierra made more money than she did playing at clubs or venues. She loved it, especially the charm of Pike Place Market. The people who passed by, the notes she played, the sounds of the city, they all felt like part of the dream she had been chasing.
I loved busking in Seattle because it was like in Pike Place Market, so there's fresh fruit, fresh flowers everywhere.
Surprisingly, she discovered a thriving jazz scene in Seattle, a scene that didn't quite fit with what she had expected, but one she embraced nonetheless. And through it all, her guitar became the bridge that connected her to everything she was experiencing, the rough and raw parts of life and the moments of pure beauty.
So this spot right here is whenever I first got to town and I had my backpack and my dog and I wasn't sure what to do or where I was going. And so I just kind of posted up over here on this musical note and sat on my backpack and played. Made about $300 that day.
For Sierra, Seattle was charming, but New Orleans, that was something else entirely for Sierra, and it would be a crucial part of her story. If Seattle had a jazz scene, this was the heart of it. The energy, the street music, the raw artistry. It was the perfect place for someone like her, and she didn't just pass through, she lived it. She played in street bands, wrote original music, and soaked up the wild, unpredictable nature of the city.
It's too much of a good thing for me.
No way I could live there, dude.
Well, like, needing to make money really, like, kept me from going off the deep end. Because I was like, okay, I have to step up and, like, go busk for at least 6 hours to make, to eventually make rent.
But the traveling lifestyle wasn't all romantic. She described that there was nights under bridges and moments of real struggle. And at some point in this phase of her life, whether it was in New Orleans or in Charleston or anywhere in between, she actually came face to face with death. She said she nearly died 5 times, but this one was different. A true out-of-body experience.
I was shooting up, and then I kind of just fell over. Before I knew it, I was kind of open, looking through my eyes. Everything was going at the same time. Time did not exist. And my friend was pacing, and he was crying, and he was shaking me, and he was wake up, wake up. And then before I knew it, I was in the corner of the room looking at my body.
After Sierra shared that powerful moment, reflecting on her near-death experience, she also has opened up about another deeply personal song.
What's the most vulnerable song you wrote about yourself?
Well, Little Bird. It's such a happy, uplifting song. But it's about DTing. It's about withdrawing.
Oh shit.
And it's what's about because I'd be homeless and I'd be DTing in the bushes or whatever, and I'd hear little birds singing and stuff around me, and and that's I wrote that song little bird, now won't you sing to me? I'll know you'll sing for free.
Its lyrics paint a gripping picture of what her life looked like during these years in her 20s. One of struggle. And I can say now that Sierra isn't dealing with those life-threatening situations anymore, and she made it out of those vices, which we all love to see. But before she became the artist we know today, Sierra was creating music in her own raw, unfiltered way. During her years of travel and self-discovery, she released 2 independent albums, Pretty Magic Spell and Washington by the Sea, which you can still find on Bandcamp. These early projects showcase a lot of these themes that would later define her sound. For example, Washington by the Sea includes tracks like Rosemary, which would later appear on her Trail of Flowers album.
But you went back to Rosemary, you went up on the hill.
And The Sea, which would also make its way onto her debut release.
The sea, the sea, the sea, it's a salty.
These albums were more than just music. They were a snapshot of Sierra's journey, an early glimpse into the storytelling that would eventually capture the attention of listeners all over the world. It's a miracle that she's made it through those tough moments, and maybe in a way, it was a turning point. Because as much as she loved this life, the trains, the busking, the endless movement, something bigger was calling. New Orleans had given her more experience, more songs, more scars, but the next stop, it was time to get serious. And in Nashville, this would be a turning point, whether she would know it or not. And keep in mind, Sierra's journey isn't necessarily linear. She kind of bounces from New Orleans and Nashville and everywhere in between. But you could say Nashville was the place that really changed everything for her. In Nashville, she was living out of her van, crashing at a friend's place. She spent her nights playing Honky Tonk Tuesdays with a band called the Cowpokes at American Legion Post 82, a scene full of classic country lovers and skilled musicians. It was one of the few things that she really looked forward to. She was also trying to book solo gigs, but the struggle of making a name for herself in such a crowded city weighed on her. She knew she had something special to offer, but the path felt unclear. At the same time, her reach was growing beyond Nashville's honky-tonks. She was connecting with Gems on VHS, an independent music channel known for capturing raw, heartfelt performances. These videos introduced her to a whole new audience online. Songs like Rosemary and In Dreams took off, gaining an uproar of praise from people who had never seen her play in person.
I hope I'm in your dreams the way you are in all of mine.
For the first time, you could say that her music wasn't just bound by a single city or a street corner. It was reaching the whole world. That growing buzz eventually caught the attention of Gary Pachosa from Rounder Records. He kept showing up to shows saying, "I'm gonna get you signed to Rounder." Sierra, skeptical at first, would look at him and say, "Prove it." And he did. It took about a year, but in 2019, it finally happened. Rounder Records, home to artists like Billy Strings and the Steel Drivers, officially signed her. After years of busking, traveling from city to city, and pushing through the uncertainty, Sierra Ferrell finally had the break she'd been waiting for. The busking and hard traveling life was officially over. And now the world was about to hear her loud and clear.
Oh, Jeremiah, tell me what have you done?
After signing with Rounder Records, Sierra's debut album, Long Time Coming, captured her eclectic, ever-evolving sound, something she describes as a jingle-jangling gypsy tornado, and it's a perfect way to put it. You could really feel the chaotic yet captivating energy of her travels in her music. Sierra herself says she wants her music to reflect the way her mind works, disjointed, all over the place, but still held together by a clear, unique identity. It's got that heavy presence of stringed instruments mixed with those gypsy-esque jingle-jangling melodies she loves.
The waste, how they're putting out my flame.
But among all of these great songs on the album, one track really stands out, In Dreams.
Before I'm one.
This song became a fan favorite, especially after it was featured on Gems on VHS, and to this day, it's probably her most recognizable hit. It's actually pretty crazy. The song was actually written in her New Orleans days, believe it or not.
That's what I went to New Orleans for like a month and a half, and that's when I wrote In Dreams. And then
What year would that have been?
like, I would say maybe 5 years ago.
That's
so.
wild.
I hate to break it to y'all, I wrote the song a long time ago. That's when I first wrote the song. So of course it's gonna be different. And I felt like from where I just wrote it, when I just write songs, I'm like on fire, you know? I'm like, yeah, I love this song. It's my new song. And so that's why I feel like that recording and version went over so well, because it's so raw and genuine.
But Long Time Coming isn't just about In Dreams. Another standout is Bells of Every Chapel. This track is beautifully paired with Billy's guitar work, and as a fan of Billy Strings, I can't help but be drawn to the way he plays. A perfect blend of acoustic perfection and Sierra's unique twist.
Every chapel will ring in the day that I met you.
Then you got songs like Jeremiah and Silver Dollar that just have this up-tempo feel to them, and melodies on those songs are super catchy.
I don't want your silver dollar. I don't want your wedding ring.
It's an album that constantly surprises you, pulling you in with each and every turn, and just showing how much Sierra has poured her own life into her music. Her growing momentum led to a huge milestone, playing at the Grand Ole Opry for the first time in 2021.
I'm Sierra Ferrell, and this is my Opry debut.
This was a big moment for any country artist, but for someone like Sierra, who had spent years busking and forging her own path, it was even more special. She specifically performed Jeremiah off of her new record, and you could tell she wasn't just playing the Opry. She was owning the stage.
Will you welcome Sierra Ferrell?
Oh, Jeremiah, tell me what have you done?
You can find clips of that performance, and the way she carries herself is pure Sierra. Playful, effortless, but commanding. Throughout Sierra's whole career, I feel like she's really just done it the right way, and I think a lot of musicians take note of that and respect her for it. and this has led to a bunch of insane collaborations with the likes of Old Crow Medicine Show and Zach Bryan and Margot Price, and recently Post Malone's F1 Trillion. It's honestly insane how many great collaborations there are. But probably her most recent achievement is the release of her highly anticipated sophomore album, Trail of Flowers.
We wrote our names on a dollar bill, found out the dollar billboard.
After years of relentlessly touring, legendary collaborations, and steadily growing her audience, Sierra had a lot to say, and this album reflects that evolution. If Long Time Coming was her free-spirited introduction to the world, Trail of Flowers feels like a deeper dive into her artistry. Right from the start, Trail of Flowers grabs you and doesn't let go. The opening trio, American Dreaming, Dollar Bill Bar, and Fox Hunt, sets the tone for a richer, fuller sound. American Dreaming feels like an ode to her past life on the road, an easy listening tune that captures that restless, wandering spirit she's always carried. Dollar Bill Bar is effortlessly playful, an instant classic. Even though it's one of the album's leading singles, I can't deny it's absolutely one of my favorites by her.
I could break 100 down at the dollar bill. Oh, honey, I could break 100.
Fox Hunt is pure adrenaline, a wild, high-energy ride that showcases her Appalachian roots at their most raw and electrifying. Her Western AF performance with Nick Shoulders is absolutely unreal. One of the things that you'll notice is the addition of a fuller sound, with the drums playing a bigger role. There's also a heavy presence of the fiddle, especially on I Can Drive You Crazy, where the melody follows Sierra's voice so closely, and it feels like an extension of her.
Hey, fever's knocking at your door. You can be the dogs lying on your floor.
What's crazy is that she only started playing the fiddle just a few years ago, and now it's become a defining part of her music. Another standout is Rosemary, a song she originally released years ago, but now revisits with a raw, stripped down intro that slowly builds into a full-fledged murder ballad. It's haunting, cinematic, and just classic Sierra.
And underneath that flower bush, well, Rosemary waits for you. Yes, Rosemary waits for you.
And with the albums and songs that she's released, we gotta give a shout out to her musicians and songwriters that helped her along the way as well. They are just top notch. And just like that, from all of those years busking on the streets from Seattle to New Orleans, hopping trains and playing really wherever she could, led to this moment in time. 4 Grammy wins for Trail of Flowers. That is honestly crazy.
Wow. Thank you so much.
For an artist who built her career from the ground up, staying true to her sound, it wasn't just a milestone. It was proof that her journey, no matter how unconventional, had brought her exactly where she was meant to be. Sierra Ferrell's story isn't just about music. It's about survival, reinvention, and the relentless pursuit of something greater. From train-hopping vagabond to one of the most captivating voices in folk and country today, her journey is a testament to what happens when raw talent meets an unbreakable spirit. She carved her own path through dive bars and the street corners until Nashville finally took notice. And now, she's been playing sold-out shows, collaborating with the biggest names in music, and proving that sometimes the most unconventional roads lead to the most extraordinary destinations. So where will the road take her next? Well, if her past is any indication, it's bound to be somewhere unexpected, but rewarding all at the same time. But that's all I have for today. I will see you guys in my next one. Take care.